what am I, and what do I stand for? Well, my name is James Yaw, and at the time of this writing, I'm 48 years old, living in Phoenix, Arizona. I was born and raised in a tiny little wide spot on US Route 20 called West Winfield, New York. But there's more to me than that definition. There's a line from the movie Batman Begins that is applicable, and it's always kind of bugged me. When Rachel says it's not who you are underneath, it's what you do that defines you, I think she was either oversimplifying or just plain wrong. When defining yourself, it's almost impossible to separate what you do from who you are underneath. Think about the number of people you know who lead double lives. The people who outwardly live caring and compassionate lives, giving to charities, volunteering their time, being all around good people. These are the things they do. Underneath this behavior, there may be some very unsavory things going on. These people may be getting honorary degrees during the day and then drugging and raping women in the evening. They may be saying Mass and hearing confessions on Sunday and then committing unspeakable sins on Monday. I've heard it said that a man can save a bus full of nuns from going over a cliff and he'll be a hero for a day. If the same man gets caught providing oral sex to another man, he'll be a cocksucker for life. But which of these behaviors represents who he is underneath, and which represents what he does? The opposite is also true. There are people who outwardly portray themselves as unscrupulous and immoral because this is the image they prefer to offer to the public. Their chosen profession requires them to be tough and rebellious, so they make sure the public is exposed to them exhibiting these behaviors. When out of the public eye, they could be donating to charities, volunteering for orphan children, or working at a shelter for abandoned animals. The dichotomy of the behaviors I've described raises the question, which version of what these people do truly defines them? If the version of themselves they offer for public consumption is what they do, that would mean their behavior in private is what's underneath. If you look back at the Honorable Miss Dawes quote, we should ignore who they are underneath and look solely at what they do to determine what kind of person they truly are. To accept this as true means to accept that we should ignore what we see on our TV and movie screens and what we hear in the violent and drug-laden song lyrics, and only pay attention to the charitable acts of these artists when they are off-screen. Unfortunately, it also means we must only pay attention to what is spoken from the pulpit on Sunday and ignore the reprehensible indiscretion of the priest during the rest of the week. By insisting that one version of reality is true while the other is not, is to blindly march over the cliff of hypocrisy. We would all like to think that the thugs and criminals we see in the movies or in music videos are actually wonderful people who don't do any of those things in real life, while at the same time believing that our religious and elected leaders, not to mention family-friendly actors and actresses, are exactly the same both in and out of the public eye. We can't have it both ways, but I'd like to think that if taken on the aggregate, and the good that is done outweighs the bad, or to be fair, the bad outweighs the good, a person can be accurately regarded by others. I'm sure there are plenty of you out there right now saying it's not man's job to judge other men, it's up to God to judge. And I understand that. If you spend any amount of time with me on this site, you'll learn that I'm not a really religious person. I'm pretty sure there's somebody up there somewhere running the show, but I'm not sure what his or her name is. If you believe what's in the books, the only way to find out for sure is to die, and I'm not quite ready for that yet. So, in my almost 50 years on this planet, I have never met someone who is completely non-judgmental. I'm pretty sure everybody judges everybody based on everything from the way they dress to the way they spend their money. If you think you don't behave that way, you're probably lying to yourself. It's pretty universal. What isn't universal is treating people differently based solely on those judgments. I'm sure we will cover that in greater detail in future recordings on this site. So now we're back to the first three questions. Who am I, and what do I stand for? The answers to these questions are only a small part of what I hope to convey to the people who take the time to visit the site, read what's there, or listen to the podcasts. I'd like to think that by listening and understanding what I have to say, you may become better able to answer those questions about yourself for yourself. You may agree with me, you may not. As a society, we have to a certain degree become enslaved by what other people have to say. We react from an emotional perspective rather than taking the time to absorb what is being said. In today's society, where everybody gets a trophy and no one is allowed to be wrong, All opinions have to be correct in order to avoid anyone getting their feelings hurt. If my opinion is not perfectly aligned with yours, it is somehow my fault. I'm a bully. I'm trying to force my opinion on you. And you are well within your rights to shout me down without taking a moment to explore whether I may actually have a valid point. The insidious thing is this: there is no fault in an opinion. It is simply that, an opinion. Unfortunately, the everybody wins sheep are running the barnyard. Don't be a sheep. Ingest, digest, regurgitate, rinse and repeat, then decide. It is for this reason that I ask you to listen to my words with equal parts open-mindedness and skepticism. This site and these podcasts are not about any one topic. This blog and these podcasts are a lot like the proverbial box of chocolates. You never really know what you're going to get. I'll talk about current events, politics, pop culture, or whatever may be happening inside or outside my window. I want the blog portion of the site to be about what is happening now. I do not want it to devolve into ranting or complaining. I may see something that I feel needs to be explored. I may witness a random act of kindness that I feel needs to have light shed upon it. Variety is the spice of life, and I intend to make this a pretty spicy site. The plan is to let you know what's coming a little bit before it actually gets there through social media, and to get the new post uploaded to the site sometime late in the week. That's going to give you the whole weekend to read it, hopefully, and listen to it. And then, of course, feel free to comment on social media platform of your choice. I've given you 3 different platforms from which to choose when you want to comment about the things that I've said on the site. You can use Facebook, you can use Twitter, or you can, of course, email me through the website. So there you have it. Welcome to TheYawWay. It's a place where I'd like to think common sense gets a seat at the table. All opinions are acceptable, but not necessarily accepted. I have raised the curtain just a little bit and given you a glimpse of what TheYawWay is. I hope I've piqued your interest enough to invite you back next week to learn a little bit more. Between now and then, go out and find a little more about who you are, what you are, and what you stand for. And feel free to provide your feedback.